Hello everyone, I'm here with Omran Shafique, who
Hi.
needs no introduction.
For some
Honored to
people, I
have-
do it. Not everyone knows. I'm not a household name. I'm not Michael Jackson. So you should introduce me.
You're Michael
This
Jackson
dude.
of Pakistan.
Oh well, shit! I wish I was the Michael Jackson. Atif Aslam is the Michael Jackson. I am a guitar player. I would be, I think, the equivalent of like American Western sense. क्या होऊंगा मैं? Like a guitar, like a Stevie Ray Vaughan. I would like to be a Stevie Ray Vaughan of.
Okay, alright.
I think I'm good with that.
So that's your introduction.
I'm the Stevie Ray Vaughan of Pakistan.
So
If I do say so myself.
glad to have you here.
Thanks,
I was at the concert last night.
Yeah.
Junoon enjoyed it thoroughly.
Excellent. First time?
First time for a Junoon show.
Right. You've seen Ali Azmat?
Never, no.
No, you've never seen Ali Azmat?
I've
Okay,
never
so this is
seen-
the first like Junooni thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like growing up, I wasn't that much of a Junoon
Fan.
fan.
Acha?
I was more into like vital sign sequencers,
Right.
Awaz, that sort of
Poppy synth stuff.
So Junoon was more of a like too raw for me, maybe.
Right. A
At
little
that
rough.
time,
Yeah.
But then knowing that maybe this is an opportunity that's never going to
No,
reoccur
never.
for me,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need
Let's
to
go see
support.
it. But did you know the song? You knew the song.
I knew the songs.
Most of the songs.
obviously. Like it's been played so much.
So much.
That,
Yeah.
and I've been following music so much that it's just it's a couple of songs I didn't know,
Yeah.
but then other than that, most of the tracks like
Right.
Boom,
Boom,
Charak,
Charak.
like I didn't.
Oh, you didn't know
the
it?
lyrics,
Oh, okay. You don't know.
and then there was another song I didn't know.
Right.
Like it was first.
Those are
time.
deeper cuts.
Probably.
Yeah.
But-
Goom, I don't think is hardly ever played. It's that's one of those songs that always gets skipped over live at least. So it was fun that we played it yesterday.
Cool. I wanted to start with youth records.
Yeah.
Like it was 2 seasons and then we heard nothing after
Nothing.
that. Was it meant for 2 seasons or?
I don't think it was meant for 2 seasons. I think it would have been nice if it kept going. That was the point. I mean, that's what we wanted,
Yeah.
was to have a platform for, younger, maybe not so well-established people to come and have the song produced by, pros, professional, like people who've been doing it. So they get that option. They get the opportunity to come into a decent studio and then have people with experience kind of guide them and tell them, and then we film the process. We get a song out of it, they get a song out of it, they get a video out of it, and it's a format jo ke abhi bhi people are still applying to many of the music shows
Right.
that are happening. But intense music starting now.
Record nahi karne do inko.
हाँ. I don't know, you want to check the audio, see if this works for you? But anyways, if it will, it's fine. A little bit of music sets the ambiance.
Sets the mood. Yeah.
So anyways, उसके बाद फिर I was only a part of the first season, and then we had
okay.
I wasn't in the second season, mostly because we didn't have the budget. I mean, I was getting less of a budget for the second season go around, so I was just like, if it's going to be like that, then, and then it all boiled down to budgets and what they
Okay.
felt was I mean, corporations tend to be a little short-sighted. उनको जब समझ नहीं आता कि ये instantly hit off होगा या चलेगा तो वो shut off कर देते हैं. But like even with Coke Studio, you needed 3 seasons to get established, as a thing. If the first season didn't do much, it just kind of did an introduction randomly. Second season maybe
It did it up for
established.
me.
Well, it's
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but I remember doing the first season, and apart from a few people who I saw that song, that was nice. But Coke Studio season 2 had an entirely different.
Yeah. You could tell. As
It
well.
was a
Yeah.
different reaction, and that's when we were like, oh. But it took 2 seasons of it to get to a point where everyone was responding to it in a different way. So, and then so that kind of, I wasn't involved in the second season of Youth Records or Pirvo. I think they just didn't kind of glue it all together in the second season. The company lost interest, the corporation, and then without that funding, it's just not possible to do it. Like, as in all things, if you want to do it right, as you should. You know, you have to say karna.
So,
The studio costs, video costs, editing, all those people involved in it, they have to get paid. So it's it gets expensive. So we need the funding. Didn't get the funding, so the day we all kind of decide, okay, let's do it again, and someone gives us the money for it, we'll do it again.
but things are fine with Gumby and like between the two of you.
Well, no, things got weird after that, Youth Records, and then things got better, and then things got weird again, and
Because you came together for
got-
that band Rahi as well.
Yeah, we did.
So what's happening with that?
Rahi was another project that kind of started off, but then it didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
And the band disintegrated, personality issues, and
I think Sounds of Kalachi started happening for SM. And
Sounds of Kalachi was happening before,
Oh,
so
yeah?
this was another.
Okay.
SN is has his hands in 5 different things
Right.
at any given time. So that was another thing.
Yeah.
So then, so
nothing happened with Rahi.
with
as
Rahi,
well.
wait, हम पहले भी initially when we were talking during breakfast, it was keeping a band together is it's harder than making music, because with different personalities, egos, non-egos, non-starters, motivators, demotivators, all those things kind of play, and personality quirks, and sometimes you don't like one thing about the other person causes, and it gets bigger, snowballs into this like eventually a meltdown and things like. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that tends to the way it was. We attempted. We have an album's worth of material recorded, not mixed.
Okay.
So we had about 9-10 songs, and some of them are actually pretty decent.
Right.
But I don't think they'll ever see the light of day.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. But there's many songs like that I'm sure everyone has, like, when you go back and say, well, it's just either usko samajh nahi aa rahi ki how do we coagulate into a thing. So all of us have this repository of things that we like, but for whatever reason never completed, and then maybe it will never complete, and then if it does, it'll great, but
So like on a similar note, you mentioned that there are some songs that you produced for Coke Studio 12, but never came onto the show.
Yeah. That
So
was
will those become coastal eventually, or is there a chance? Because you said hip hop ish.
no. See, I mean, as a I'm a music producer, so I get commissioned all the time to do things.
Right.
They're not necessarily things that I would do personally.
Okay.
They're things that they're like, well, we need this and we need this, and it has aimed towards that. Okay, so we give them that thing.
Right.
I mean, so this was definitely in those. So they were like, we have these guys, these rappers, and it was a hip hop thing kind of, and so we want obviously Coke Studio flavor with mixed in with that. So we did what we could with it. Lekin, I think ultimately the arc of the season and the sound of the season, it wasn't matching with this kind of hip hop feel. So it just didn't make sense.
So why?
I got paid regardless. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
why. That's why I did it. I got paid.
Right. But then you don't, like, once you've produced some work,
Sure.
like, don't you want to make it live or for the world to see as well? Because you've put in that effort, you've put in that creative effort as well.
Yeah, sure, but wait, it's not. Let's put. I wouldn't have produced those songs if it had not
weren't-
been.
Yeah.
So, and those songs, rightfully, since I got paid for them, belong to the company that paid me. So I hand it over and I say, okay,
It's yours. Okay.
and you do with it as you wish. If you don't want to release it, don't release it. If you would like to release it, release it. I mean, it's my job is
Done.
over.
Yeah.
So, and and the biggest part with making music is dissemination. It's how do you
put it across.
put it to where people
Right, yeah.
and we don't even give him pay us for this, otherwise you don't get to hear it. We're just like, if I make a song, I'm like, how can I get it everywhere so people can hear it? They don't have to like it, they don't have to give me any money. If they like it, great. But the goal has always been to get it far and wide. Now, it was a lot easier maybe 15 years ago on the internet to disseminate because organic views, you don't have to boost, pay, or do any additional stuff. No like statistical analysis on Friday after 4 is the
Yeah.
best time to post a thing
Digital
because you will have the
marketing, yeah.
highest thing. And I'm like, I can't spend all my day like trying to figure out statistics and
Analytics,
logistics of
yeah.
how to release some music that I've made. My method when I'm and the other thing is, once I'm done with some music, I'm done with it. Like, and I hardly ever go back and listen to. Sometimes for like old sakes, or I'm getting nostalgic about something, I'll go and listen to something that I've done before.
Right.
But for the most part,
You won't do it.
कर लिया. But I know what I did. मैं फिर से क्यों सुनूं उसको, right? So, and it's sometimes someone will share a Coke Studio song, and I'll click on it. Like, I haven't heard this song since I recorded it like 10 years ago.
Right, right.
So,
But now, speaking of getting it out, like there's Spotify, I know you had your own SoundCloud channel. I don't know if you're
still there. But wait, I'm horrible at updating it.
Okay.
I've worked on so many other things since, but I'm not a very good promoter of my own shit. I'm not a good promoter of anyone else's either, but I mean specifically, it's just and this is why you would want in a professional industry, you would have people that handle that
Right,
and take
yeah,
care
yeah.
of that for you, because you're the artist and your job is to make the art, not distribution
right,
or any of those types of things. And then Pakistan, it's all do it yourself. You have to be savvy on the business angle and on the thing. That's the only way you can do it. Otherwise, it's next to impossible to make a living at it. You can always make art, but if no one gets to hear it, what's the point? Or see it, what's the point? So that's always been an issue.
And then with you playing part as sometimes as a producer, other times maybe playing
Session
sessions.
guitar,
Yeah, so like while choosing that sort of work for like session playing,
Yeah.
does the artist have to align with your playing, or is it just also like pretty much a transaction what they require of you?
Well,
and
sometimes if they're coming to me as like, I want you to play guitar on my track, it tends to be for a specific reason,
okay,
which is, kid, you play like that which I want.
right,
And I mean, I try to be able to kind of play like a variety of styles, and I mean, I enjoy it. That's why I do it. So they'll be like, we want like a more of that, the funky Omran guitar solo, or more like a bluesy guitar solo, or do like a more heavy metal version of something. So it depends on what it is that they're asking, and then but sometimes it's like, well, we need a Spanish guitar in this, and like a flamenco style, whatever, and then I look at it as like, okay, this is a challenge for me to maybe kind of do it. So that's always open. I mean, frankly, I'm just happy that someone calls me and says, I want you to play something on my song. I'm like, yeah, great, here are my rates, and then let me play, and so honestly, well, the thing is, I as someone who enjoys playing music and enjoys the process and everything, half the stuff that I do I would do for free,
okay,
which is really hard, because then people would just be like, well, we'll do it for this much, but then I also have to make a living at it.
yes,
I have to pay the bills as well. So then at that point I'd be like, well, so that's the only criteria. I'll be like, yeah, I need to get paid for it. And then sometimes I like the song, I'll be like, I'll just play, I just want to play on it.
but that doesn't set your standards as in for future work to get less in terms of money for the things that you actually want to get paid for?
Yeah.
Because they know that maybe you would do some things
I
for
would.
free.
Well, it's not like I would like to do something. It's like I like to do everything. related to me.
Right. Okay.
So they're like, कि तुम, I just did a audio, like a score, like a movie score. No, it wasn't a movie, it was like a documentary, a half an hour. Al Jazeera pe air hui hai.
Oh, okay.
It's called Letters from Death Row.
Letters from Death Row.
Death Row. It's about a Pakistani guy who's imprisoned for murdering his father for like 20 years, and he was on death row for the entire time. So it was like any given moment he could be hanged.
Okay.
And appeal after he wrote 4 letters basically from death row, so it kind of tells that story. And then he got released. He didn't get hanged eventually. So it's kind of a dark topic. It kind of came out from the director, which is Tazeen Bari, very talented young lady from Islamabad. She called me up and she was like, I heard this Chan Tara orchestra track that I really like, and I want to use it in this documentary because I think it would suit the feel. Khak Machine, which she wanted.
Right.
And then for whatever reason that song didn't end up getting used, but she was like, I want more of that type of stuff.
Right.
So I ended up kind of doing a score based around similar concepts and ideas, and that became for the final score for the audio. It's like a half an hour documentary, nothing big.
Okay.
But it was something that I'd never done before. Movie scoring is not, film scoring is not something that I generally do. But I was open to it and it was fun. So when work comes, and I love to be challenged and not have to resort to the same bag of tricks that I'm always doing,
Right.
and then so ask me to play like a polka song, I'll be like, oh shit, I gotta figure this out. How do you play polka? How do you make it authentic? Not just play polka, but how do you make it sound authentic and genuine?
Right.
So
those challenges that you talk about are also when you said that you didn't want to end up singing for Moj, but you did.
yeah.
And also for Coastal, like your vocals are there as well.
Yeah.
But that's a choice rather than you just had to.
Coastal?
Yeah.
It was around the same time as Moj.
Okay.
And what happened was I went to Taha Malik, who's like the guy who basically produced the album Coastal. He did the Coastal song obviously, and the Moj album. And he's a big time producer now in Pakistan as well. Does all sorts of commercial work as well as
some movie work.
So
as well,
totally do lots of movie work as well. So I had a little riff and a little line, Meri Jaan Jaan Jaye, and I just sang it for him, and he was like, "Oh, that's cool, just sing it. What do you have?" And I just gave him my vocals, and then he came back after a little while and he said, "Okay, I put a beat to it." And that was whatever that beat was, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And he was like, well, let's start a new project while we're recording Moj. We can have these other songs. That was an old Moj song that I just felt didn't fit with the rest of the album. So I was like, I don't know what to do with this. He's like, if you wanna, the Jaan Jai came out, and I was like, well, that's obviously not a Moj thing anymore.
Right.
Entirely different. So we're like, okay, that's a new thing, that's Coastal. And then we recorded about 2-3 other songs, some just in demo state, some other lyrics. Urdu lyrics is the biggest problem for me. Wahin atak gaye, and then I moved to Pakistan, and then he was still back there for 10 years. Then he came, so we shot a video in the meantime, but never congealed into like an album.
Right.
For Coastal. But Coastal was basically me and Taha, but Taha's kind of taken the mantle and just gone on with it and doing other things under the
Coastal banner.
Coastal banner.
So that also, when you mentioned that it was a Moj song which got converted into a Coastal song. Now,
it was just a thing.
Yeah. But eventually it was meant for something else.
I guess.
Yeah. And it got used.
It got used, and I didn't know what that was like. That was a line that was at least 4 or 5 years old,
right?
When it was recorded. So I had it for a while. I play it occasionally. Okay, acha ye ek hai, iska kya kare? And Atif, or the bass player, would be like, it's nice, but I don't know what to do with it either. So it never happened, and then with the time and place the right person came along
and then
to take that idea and then make it into.
So when you perform with other musicians and then when you're jamming to perform for a session, like certain ideas must come up which never get used. Similarly,
Yeah.
like
Lots
so
of-
you think, okay, this thing is good, but maybe for Chantara orchestra, not for Ali Asmat.
Sure.
Right,
Sure.
so-
that stuff like that happens, and we as a professional musician, I spend so much of my time discarding things.
Right. Ideas,
This is not
yeah.
fitting. This is not fitting. And even when I'm discarding things, it's like that's a good thing. It's just not what I needed a bhangra type thing, and it's
Right.
not a bhangra type thing. So, and it goes aside. And we're like scatterbrained. It's like we never go back. Like my biggest thing. Oh crap! We're flighty. We're not. We're not documenting everything that we do. And what I was saying is like my favorite thing that's kind of born out of improvising is like I'm not really into like solid songwriting anymore. I like to get together with a bunch of guys that can play a little bit of music and then just jam and whatever happens and that act of creation is very satisfying for me. Okay, I think mostly it's like a reaction to 11-12 years of Coke Studios regimented 30 songs of okay अब ये करना है तो मुझे वो जो form और structure वो जो है उससे ही थोड़ी सी वो चिढ़ होनी शुरू हो गई है. I prefer to just be like just play something and we'll play along
Right,
and we'll make it as is, and we've played sometimes amazing things that then
Transpired.
no one ever hears it except for
Right.
like the दो बंदे जो side पे बैठे होते हैं in the corner and they'll be like that was really good, you should record that, and we're like yeah we should. No, we never do it.
And then as viewers, maybe someone records that for
It is
and
recorded,
then we
like-
see like wow,
Yeah, that's
like when
that-
will we see
when
this?
will- yeah, and then it
but
never happens.
Never happens.
Never happens.
Anyway.
But that's kind of the I enjoy making music without an end goal or any purpose, and it's obviously because 10 years of being a professional,
Right.
it's kind of made me like I just don't make me like make a
Stick
pigeonhole
to-
or
right.
like that kind of like now you have to do this. So anytime when I can not do that, which is just make music for the sake of music, there's no other goal towards it like we used to back in the day. There wasn't a goal, end
Right.
goal towards it. So now like यार एक project है और या हम music show कर रहे हैं और या ये वो है तो हमें there's a score, whatever, that becomes like a regiment thing, which I've done all my life. That's kind of what my experience has always been, but it's not. I mean, what I would love to do is just have 4 guys here and I just play, and then if someone's smart enough to record that, then that could actually be turned into something that works. I mean, I know I can record it. I have studio recording equipment at home.
Right.
I have the know-how. I have all the stuff.
Yeah.
But when I'm being creative, I don't want to be technical. Plugging in things or
Right,
troubleshooting कि यार ये sound नहीं या level नहीं आ रहा या वो नहीं हो रहा ये क्या, and then people are changing cables, mics, so उसका सब, that's an entirely different process and it kills the creative flow.
Creativity. Yeah.
So if you're like playing somewhere, you don't want to be like yeah what's the sound like, or like why isn't it वो नहीं हो रहा or looking for other people micing them properly. So you want to just be like acha I'm in that flow and just do it.
So that's the same reason why also maybe you've had too many projects, maybe like say you did a podcast Mad at Culture and I mentioned Rahi,
Yeah.
CTO,
Yeah.
all the session thing that you do.
Yeah.
So like it feels like you were
Yeah, but you have to realize this
too
is
experimental.
over the course. It is experiment. I mean, that's what I enjoy. I mean, why else would I be doing it? I want to be exploring new avenues, and being experimental is a great word. It's not for me. It's not negative. Yeah, it's negative in the sense that maybe you don't make as much money. By doing maybe more focused commercial work. लेकिन अगर if it and variety is the whole reason that
Spice of life.
yeah, it was that was the reason I started doing music, so
Right.
I could play with a bunch of different people, not just. I would hate to be in a band and only be able to play with those guys because that's all we were doing, I get bored, and that's kind of been a problem, for me. Is like I want to have 4 different things because I like hip hop, I like country. Like recently, I've gone into country. I like blues, and I'd like to be able to do it authentically, not just I'm gonna add a country lick in here. I'd be like, I want to write a country song. I want to have a country album or blues or whatever. I'm not saying I'm gonna do it. It's just if I do it, I'd like to do it as authentically as possible. And I guess that's experimental because I'm not sticking to a certain style or I'm just this is what I am now, and that's also an important distinction is I'm a musician, but that's like ये मूरो के साथ भी मैं ये बात कर रहा था कि how much of you is how much of that does that encompass me being a musician. I spend a lot of time in it because that's my job. So, but how much of me is just a musician? And I'm like, well, 1/10, 2/10, maybe 1/5. But so that means I'm a father, a husband, a friend, a brother, the hire of other people and working for other people and an employee of other people. I like to write. I like to watch and absorb and talk and kind of try to explain whatever's happening. I mean, I've been into like American politics for the longest time. Not into in the sense September 11th. I was like, oh, how does this relate to me all of a sudden? How do I deal with it? Right. So I started reading up and then I figured out where do I stand on these issues, which were I was young. I'd never thought about it. Eventually, I thought about it, but that's a big part of who I am. I mean, the world and how it affects me and everybody else is important to me, and that's a huge part of who I am. You'll find me talking about those issues at times, So, and then those things maybe seep into my music as well, and then sometimes they don't. I mean, Chanta Orchestra is purely a more Sufiana band. Not purely, but it's a very Sufiana stylistically as they relate to the modern world, but they're not like immediate alt indie punk type lyrics or anything. Modern. They're old school. Right. But what we like to do is take those old school ideas and maybe inject some new tonalities, and not but we don't want to throw it out the window. We like the respect and the reverence that should be paid to these things has to remain. It has to come through. But at the same time, we don't want to be restricted to the classical forms of these kalams,
right,
or how they're classically said or sung. So we break away in that sense. So, but that was, and it's an ever evolving process. And me and Babar are always kind of laughing about how much we talk about this shit. And they're like, the actual doing of it takes 5 minutes, but the pre-discussion that happens before those 5 minutes go on for like days, sometimes months. We're just like, I like synths. I like the fact that what's his face, Peter Gabriel didn't have any hi-hats in his album in 1981, and that's a cool thought, and then we're like, well, why don't we do something like that? And then we did. We took that idea and then kind of incorporated it into ours. And it's a very simple thing. Don't put any hi-hats or crashes with the drums. Right. And that simple thing, I would imagine, is revolutionary because you haven't heard a song recently that doesn't have a hi-hat or a crash or a tsh type thing. It doesn't have it. We added other things to compensate, but so in and of itself, that's a subversive idea to kind of promote, but while keeping a very commercial melodic idea of the vocals and the melody that's happening. So unless you're paying attention, unless I start talking about it, it's not fairly obvious what's happening. But because you talked about it for like 2 months,
right,
it was a natural evolution of an idea,
right,
which which wasn't 5 minutes. It was minusing everything that was hi-hatty or
Okay.
crash.
Okay,
I'm just
yeah.
giving you like one
Right,
example
right.
of how
Okay.
something developed.
Right.
That we were just like, he played a song and I was like, there's no hi-hats or crashes in this song. And I was like, isn't that strange? I was like, that is strange. It sounds cool. It's like, what sounds cool about it? Why is it that we're thinking this is interesting? Because it doesn't sound like anything else. I haven't heard anything like this. So then we were like, why don't we do something like that? Okay, next opportunity we're gonna do that, you know. And then came up, that was the thing, and then we ended up, you know, doing it. And that was this was one of my favorite songs. It's a very weird song that Janta Orchestra did. Was called Khuda Jaane for the Panch mixtape that Babar did.
Okay, yeah, the recent.
Khuda Jaane is and it's a original lyrics, I think, that Sherry wrote, and then it's in a kind of a weird meter, because I think he did it in a 3 count, which is a 1 2 3 1 2 3, and I converted that 1 2 3 into a 1 2 3 4, so we could have a boom ba kind of a beat to it. So that adds a very weird 3-chord cycle, which, and again, my goal was not to make it weird. What I wanted to make it as listenable as possible while still having a very very strange arrangement structure around it. And again, if I don't point it out, my goal is it shouldn't be apparent. No one should say, "Yaar, isme kuch ajeeb ho raha hai." It should be like, okay. They might be subconsciously saying, that's a little strange, that's kind of weird, but then we don't know what's
Right.
gonna happen.
And so this experimental stuff, is it the reason why you change your looks over the years as well?
No.
Because like seeing you from the beginning, from Khush Fahmi till now, like,
Well,
there's
I
been,
happen
like,
to be
loads of look changes.
in a situation where it doesn't matter what I look. Well, it does matter. It does matter, but no one's like, oh, you got to be clean cut, or no one's like, oh, you got to look a certain way. Although for sometimes we're like, yeah, we like your like grungy look, or we like you clean looking. You know? So, you know, those are things. But I personally am just kind of like, grow my hair out. Okay, grow my hair out. I'll grow it out. And then I decided, and then I'm like, I'm sick of it. And it's usually, you know, every 2-3 years. I think what this conversation and generally everything in my life has proven is that I need variety. I need change. I also get sick of like places along with people. Every 5-6 years, I'm like, I need a change of scenery. I need to get out of whatever thing I'm like this. Somehow I need to get out of all that. Obviously, you can't do it once you have kids and you're married, and you can't just up and leave. But that, I think there is a thing within me that kind of tells me, okay, now, which is very much, I think, shows up in my. Okay, I'm sick of like the way I'm looking.
Right.
I don't want to look at myself in the mirror anymore because I'm just, you know. And then I'm like, okay, there's been like 100 pictures of me with like long hair now, and you know, baal get in, they're all getting white and shit, and I'm like, okay, it's too much. I'm getting anxiety because of it, so just shave it. And once I shaved, I was like, acha, beard bhi itni badi hui hai, just go in another direction.
Okay.
So it becomes then it's a problematic because I sometimes I'll walk by friends and they won't recognize me.
Maybe it's good in the public eye.
It's well, no, I mean, you want to create a brand and thing, so you want that what does Momo look like? That guy, you know. That doesn't happen, which I'm okay with.
Yeah. Like, as long as there's a guitar and like there's music coming out.
Yes.
Doesn't
I think
matter.
that is the important thing. I mean, and you know, as I get older, it's like I'm not getting any prettier. I'm not impressing anyone with my looks anymore. So that was never my, you know, the goal. So what I look like is whatever I feel like.
Secondary.
Yeah, whatever I feel like at the time.
And then carrying on to maybe your shirts, like you have a certain style that you wear this shirt and always keep your sleeves open.
Yeah.
I mean,
sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. There have been times when I've left it open. Generally, sleeves are open. It's just stuffy. I feel like I'm going to work.
Like 3/4 or maybe.
Yeah. This is just easier, more comfortable, and it's easier to
play.
It's when it's those things are I need things to be out of the way so I can play. So it's just pragmatic to have
clothing.
T-shirts are easier. Shirts. If I'm wearing a shirt, then it'll be pulled up usually, and it's hot in Karachi. So.
Yeah. Final question would be, it's something that's been bothering me for a long time.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with like Omran Shafique, but it's like music in general in Pakistan, which is live music, especially in terms of, say, even Coke Studio, now acoustic station, like all of it sounds pretty polished, even though it's not meant to be polished.
Not acoustic, no. I mean, Coke Studio is supposed to be polished. That's the idea.
No,
right?
Like the first season was.
It wasn't, but that wasn't that. That was just because it wasn't. I don't think it was because they couldn't polish it.
But then, like, I'm a big fan of Tiny Desk.
Yeah. Great.
Nothing like that with that simple sort of setup. Maybe it sounds simple, but it isn't to me as a general listener. But why isn't that replicated in Pakistan? Whenever someone plays live, I feel like it's lacking something. Like it's lacking maybe the type of notes that they use or the chords, or like it just feels like not full.
It's a different. It's a different environment. They approach it differently. The chordal sense is different in Pakistan.
But the sound?
So similarly, the sound that people want to hear and what maybe the producers are told to produce as is, we want it to be more Bollywood style, or we want it to be more, whatever style.
Right.
And then ये नहीं चलेगा यहाँ. ये उस style का नहीं, हमें ज़रा extra चीज़ें चाहिए. We need some flash or whatever, glamour or glitz or something.
It's not because the technical expertise nahi hai. Like it's like maybe audio engineers वैसे नहीं है.
नहीं, I think it's not a technical thing.
Right.
It's a aesthetic thing.
Okay.
अब वही बात आती है, like Tiny Desk and those type of things had a gestation period of 6 months of people setting those parameters. Okay, it's not going to be close mic'd. Like I know how they do it. Nothing is super close, and they're like get some good musicians, put them in a place that sounds acoustically relatively nice, put a couple of mics in front of them, and then record.
Yeah.
Which is easier to do.
Right.
Than doing all the इसको यहाँ भी mic,
overdoing it in a way.
In a sense, overdoing it. अब वही है. Oh, but I'm not getting my money's worth. Why are you doing all these things, but I'm not getting all the, where's the things that go beep beep beep, and where's the EQ that goes like this, and I need to see all these things, So like the guys who are writing the checks will be like, वो इतना simple क्यों जा रहे हैं? वो aesthetic choice है करता है. And then like I've tried to sell that exact same Tiny Desk idea to corporations or to and I was like, I want it to be, I'm giving it to people now, and then they go, we're like a mehfil, which is the Tiny Desk idea, right? So आप get a bunch of good people, good musicians, and put them in a place where they can just perform like they perform. And your job is not to get the best pristine sounding guitar sound. Your job is to get the best overall soundscape that these guys make.
Yeah.
How do you get that? Put 2 mics in front of people. Make sure your levels are right, and then arrange everything in a way that. So there is some forethought. There is some.
Yes.
And there may be a lack of technical expertise on how to do it that way. Because वहाँ पे तो अमेरिका में तो you can imagine there are thousands of audio engineers graduating from those music schools every year. Every year there's thousands of those well-taught, super established technical guys who come out. We've got like 3 or 4 guys in Pakistan who actually gone abroad and studied for it. Vast majority of people are going by experience and how does that works? Okay, we'll just go with that. So it's the same thing as asking why does Pakistan not have Hollywood style movies or why the
Perhaps,
TV
yeah.
shows?
Maybe that's an interesting way to look at it.
Why
yeah.
the TV shows? Well, we just haven't had the time to develop as much into a proper industry. So a lot of it is just people kind of figuring out for themselves, and so you can't really blame that, but a lot of it is just aesthetics.
Right.
Understanding sometimes, and this is I think the hardest subject. Less is more is a very hard concept to really apply.
In a commercial sense, or
No, everyone will say less is more, but then they'll
they
do
don't
more.
want to do it. Okay.
They'll keep
yeah.
doing more
Yeah.
because it's scary to be
Exposed. Yeah.
and raw. And a singer will be like, यार मेरा note, क्योंकि वहाँ पे वो eagle ear पता नहीं क्या होता है, but bat eared critics बैठे हैं जो कि इसका वो क्या कहते हैं, उसका कमाल नहीं सही है, उसका वो उसने ये नहीं लो नहीं उसका सही, उसका वो नहीं सही, उसका ये. अब इनसिक्योर जो आर्टिस्ट हैं वो कहते हैं यार अगर आपने इसी तरह हमें बैठे बैठे रिकॉर्ड कर दिया तो हमारी आवाज़ का ट्यूनिंग कौन करेगा, यानी कि अब वो जो परफेक्शन लानी है वो किस तरह आएगी. Which I'm like, perfect is whatever sounds good, and,
Right,
and sometimes
yeah.
so those become an issue. No, everything has to be individually recorded. I'm saying still from the NPR point of view. So anyway, you have to make a conscious decision and then stick by it. And
So like reasons like this is, I feel.
but
like,
NPR even still is a one show, and it didn't exist 10 years ago. It just started. So
Yeah, but-
it'll trickle down. People who grew up on NPR and will eventually come back to Pakistan and be like, this is the way you do it, and then it'll happen. Pakistan also tends to be about 10-20 years behind
Well, I hope
the
it
music
develops.
scene.
I hope it develops.
It
but
will. It'll develop at its own pace, and maybe not as fast as we'd like it.
Because then, like, as Pakistani, I can showcase Pakistani music to people who are not Pakistani, which is a like.
I think
big
Coke
thing.
Studio was what people wanted.
Yeah, but like people that are used to listen to Black Keys or things that are more.
That's definitely a alt indie thing that has no place in Pakistan. Very little. Stuff like the Black Keys. I mean,
Yeah.
those are like rawer than what most people would want to listen
Digest.
to. It's harder to once again because it's there's a whole history of Western pop music that's brought us to this point.
Yes. Yeah.
Fetishizing old 70s gear and analog stuff, that's a thing with the Black Keys, right? That's not a thing in Pakistan. No one fetishizes 70s Moog synthesizers or like tones and
Right.
effects pedals from the 70s and 60s, but that's something that's a thing in Western music. We are referencing those things that people in Pakistan don't even know about, like the weird underground stuff from the 70s and the 80s and the new wave stuff. Most Pakistanis have only heard 80s pop music, not the 80s punk scene, not the 70s punk scene, all the 60s. They might know the big names, but there's a lot of like undercurrents and different genres that led to all the other things happening.
Right. Yeah.
So those people have followed that. Ab yahan pe they follow a different trajectory. The vast majority of people, they're following what's happened in Pakistani music. So they can only get to where they, Junoon, I think, and even Vital Signs and Nazir, they were good because they elevated the music scene in a way that helped the rest of the country bring up what they consciously understood as being good music.
Yes.
They were able to elevate that. Vital Signs did that. They were like, 4 guys making like synthy kind of pop rock type stuff, and they're not singing traditional lyrics. They're not maybe traditional, but they're not completely traditional melodies. So those things elevated and changed the music scene. Coke Studio also, I believe, changed the music scene.
did.
Not
It
necessarily,
did. Yeah.
maybe for the better or for worse, and it has its
For the better,
For the most part.
the way that is being exported
it
outside
definitely changed
the same
the thing.
concept,
But
yeah.
wait, so we have our little history of music that comes along, and that all that baggage that comes with it.
Right.
Our khandani and
Yeah.
gharane and
The qawwalis,
and
the
then the
yeah,
classical being the
epitome.
the elitist,
Yeah.
kind of, and then the folk music being the thing. So all those things kind of, and you take that history and so those aspects that you're saying, the only way to inject those things is to do it in subtle, slight ways, right?
To develop.
If you give them the Black Keys immediately, they'll be like, "Ye kya kachra?" But if you slowly say कि ये भी हो सकता है, you know, basically say कि देखो Sex Pistols 70s में आए थे, उन्होंने इस किस्म की चीज़ की थी. क्यों की थी? इसलिए political थे or economic थे, and they had, you know, points of view. So they weren't about necessarily being the best musicians or the best singers, but they had a style and aesthetic sense, parameters, and there was thought behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Similarly, we have to kind of show that to this thought, let people understand it, contextually figure out कि वो क्यों इस चीज़ को पसंद करें, or like, you know, sell it to them, basically, which is a hard thing to do. It's not easy. Because I like the Black Keys, so I'm going to write a song in Urdu that's just like the Black Keys, and
It's not
everyone
gonna
will hate
work.
it.
Yes, definitely.
But I can inject a little bit of the Black Keys and say कि देखो ये है, and then explain it. Let people grab onto it, so they can accept a little bit of like ये थोड़े सी out of tune-ish जो feel आ रही है, वो एक वजह है. You know, there's a reason for it, and maybe you kind of expand on it, and then eventually you kind of take it on, and more people will latch on and kind of do it. Wait, time and place type hoti hai.
Right, yeah. Well, that's about it.
All right.
I guess, yeah. But thanks a lot for your time.
No worries, bro.
And hopefully see you again with Junoon or Ali Azmat
Or
as
any
Mod or
various
CTO. Or,
hopefully,
yeah.
one way or the other.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers, man.